Welcome to Slow English. Today, we are going to travel back in time together to listen to one of the greatest stories in all of human history. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte. It begins on a small, quiet island, far from power and glory, but full of hunger and purpose. Let us begin. The year was 1769. On a small island called Corsica in the Mediterranean Sea, a baby boy was born. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte. Corsica was not a rich or powerful place. The people there were proud but simple. This baby boy was born into a family that was not very wealthy. His father, Carlo, was a lawyer. His mother, Letizia, was a strong and serious woman. She raised her children with discipline and taught them that life is not easy, that you must fight for everything you want. Napoleon was the second of 8 children. Young Napoleon was different from the other children. He was serious, focused, and from a very young age, he loved to read books about great leaders, wars, battles, and history. His mind was always moving, thinking, and dreaming. When Napoleon was just 9 years old, his father sent him to France to a military school for soldiers. For a young boy from a small island, this was a big journey. France was a powerful, rich country full of noise, history, and culture. But for Napoleon, it was a lonely place. He was different from the other boys. He spoke French with a strong Corsican accent. The other boys laughed at him, called him names, and treated him like an outsider. Napoleon felt this deeply, but he did not cry and he did not give up. Instead, he studied harder. He became very good at mathematics, and he loved geography and history. Slowly, a quiet, strong confidence began to grow inside him. He believed that being different was something special. When he graduated from the military school in Paris at the age of 16, he was ready to become a soldier. In the late 1780s, France was in deep trouble. The poor people were very angry because they had no food and no money, while the king and the rich lived in beautiful palaces. In 1789, the French Revolution began. It was a time of great change and danger. In this chaos, young Napoleon began to rise. He was brave, smart, and understood that in times of change, the people who act quickly and think clearly are the ones who win. He made fast decisions and inspired his soldiers. At the remarkable age of 24, he became a general. The lonely boy who was laughed at in school was now one of the most important military leaders in France. Napoleon won battle after battle in Italy and Egypt, becoming a true hero to the French people. In 1799, he took control of the French government. Then, in 1804, during a beautiful ceremony in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, Napoleon did something incredible. He took the crown and placed it on his own head. He crowned himself Emperor of France. An empire now stood behind him, and he believed the whole world was waiting ahead. Napoleon controlled most of Europe. He changed laws, built roads and schools, and brought order to a chaotic continent. But he was never satisfied. In 1812, he made the greatest mistake of his life. He decided to invade Russia. He took an army of more than 600,000 soldiers, the largest army in European history at the time. However, the Russian army pulled back and burned their own villages and food, leaving nothing for Napoleon's army. When the brutal Russian winter arrived, soldiers died from the extreme cold, hunger, and exhaustion. Napoleon had to retreat, and more than half of his army never returned. This disaster proved to his enemies that Napoleon was not invincible. The Fall and Waterloo. After Russia, the countries of Europe, England, Prussia, Austria, and Russia, joined together against him. In 1814, they entered Paris. Napoleon had no choice but to give up power. He was exiled to a small island called Elba. But he did not rest for long. Just 10 months later, he escaped Elba and returned to France. The French people and soldiers welcomed him back with joy. It seemed his story might continue. But in June 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo in Belgium, Napoleon fought his final battle. The Allied forces were too strong, and Napoleon lost. This time, there was no escape. He was sent far away to St. Helena, a tiny remote island in the South Atlantic Ocean. He lived there for 6 years, quiet and alone. In 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died at the age of 51. Napoleon was not a perfect man. He made terrible mistakes and caused great suffering. But his journey teaches us something powerful. He was an outsider who spoke with the wrong accent and came from the wrong place. Yet he refused to let the world decide his future. He proved that knowledge and effort can completely change a life. And here you are, my friend. You are listening to this story on Slow English. Maybe English is not your first language, and maybe it feels difficult sometimes. But you are here, learning and growing. Every word you understand is a small victory. Keep going, keep listening, and keep learning. Thank you for joining us today on Slow English. If this story helped you learn something new, please come back for more journeys. Take care of yourselves and never stop learning.